As we've said in several of these recent videos, we're in that time of the church year at the end of the green season where we have some more kind of generic readings from the lectionary. And for several weeks we've been in this, caught in this dialogue that Jesus has been having with temple leaders, kind of debating back and forth, a very Jewish scholar sort of scene with these people banding about these ideas and really pushing and pulling on each other. And last week we had what John Ross, our dean, called a foundational teaching for him about the idea. Oftentimes we hear that render unto Caesar what is Caesar and render to God what is God's. We hear that more tied into tithing, pledging, or following the rules. And John really allowed us to see that in a different light and talking about really valuing what is God's, what part of our life is owed to God, and seeing how we are spiritual people, not of this world, but of God's world. So if that's sort of a foundational teaching, as John taught us in the sermon last week, we have sort of a culminating lesson at the end of this long dialogue Jesus has had with the temple scholars as they sum up the entire law. And of course, the Jewish people were very attached to the law in very beautiful ways, starting with the Ten Commandments, but then of course it expanded through the centuries. And Jesus sums it all up by saying, love God, love neighbor. That love is the essence of the law. The essence of how we are to structure our lives is to be sure that everything we do is done out of love. And it's a wonderful teaching for us to have this weekend as we welcome our bishop, Brian Cole, for his annual visitation, when we'll also be having folks received and renewing their baptismal covenant. So we have a really wonderful time to live into that love of Christ that binds us all together. And it's also kind of an excuse for us to sing some of the most beautiful and popular hymns and anthems that we have, in addition to all of our prayers. So we'll come in singing, All Hail the Power of Jesus' Name. Surely one of the most popular hymns or beloved hymns in our repertoire. This text is an 18th century text that comes from London, and it was not written by one of our biggest names in hymn composition. It's a more obscure name, and it was altered much in those first decades of its life in the very late 18th century. And yet it really caught on and was a very popular text in England. And the tune is actually an early American tune that was written in the late 18th or maybe very, very early 19th century. And it's of a particular type of early American hymn tune that we call a fuguing tune. And it's a little bit not the best example of a fuguing tune, but it certainly is this idea of those early American hymn tunes. And right away, this tune became paired with that text, and they have been interlocked ever since, and are certainly one of the hymns that people can remember singing all through their lives. At the offertory, the choir will be singing some words from St. John's Gospel. If ye love me, keep my commandments, and I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter. And these ideas that we associate especially with the end of the Easter season, looking on towards Pentecost. But again, this idea of love permeating everything and it flowing through the Spirit. And this is a setting by the contemporary English composer Philip Wilby. And it has this lush, beautiful, broad melody that starts off and recurs throughout the anthem. So we hope that you will come and experience the love of Christ with us as we join together and worship this Sunday at St. John's.